Hey, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the regular meeting of Council of May 1st. My goodness, the 1st of May. It being 7 o'clock, I'll call the meeting to order. We have our traditional land acknowledgement printed in our agenda. And a note that our Chief Administrative Officer is not with us tonight. Is he attending online? No, thank you. Okay. Without further ado, I'm very honored to welcome Chief Gary Feschuk, former Mayor, I guess, Cam Reed, and online, Kathleen Coyne and Siobhan Smith from the Suyaya movement. And, I could talk all night about the achievements and the commitment that Gary and Cam in particular have given to our community, but we've got a lot of things on our agenda. I think, though, that what matters, and Gary and I had the pleasure of chatting at his house last week, we're friends, we're neighbors, and and I think the goals, and we're going to hear more from Gary, but the goals are of the Suyaya movement are something that are really important for our collective communities. So I should also add, Gary promised to keep it to 90 minutes or less. I do have a button that does turn off your microphone, Chief Feschuk. So, but welcome, and we're very pleased that you're here, and you as well, Mayor Reed. He's calling in from Dees Lake, I believe. He's not even nodding. Oh, now he's nodding. Okay. Very good.
Yeah, that's correct.
So, Chief Feschuk, the floor is yours. If you press that button on the microphone. There, great. Yep, that's good.
Is it on or off?
Yep.
Is it on? Yep. Itaquile with Messiah. Akasta Haknakton Squeeze. First of all, I just wanted to say good evening to everybody. And I'm saying because everybody's part of the CIA movement, I just welcomed you as part of our relations. Now, everybody who's joined CIA as part of our family. And I carry two ancestral names. Akasta is my great-grandfather's name. Achanok is my great-great-grandfather's name. And they're both hereditary chiefs for our family. And I just wanted to thank the mayor and the council for accepting my invitation tonight to come and speak about CIA. But first, I want to acknowledge the district of Sechelt, because the district of Sechelt, I want to acknowledge Cam Reed, Siobhan, Kathleen. We were doing reconciliation a lot earlier than before CIS started. And I want to acknowledge the district of Sechelt who really helped us build that monument that's up at the government office of the Sechelt Nation. And they were instrumental in paying for the carved stone that you see there. It's the mother holding on to her child. That was the message given to the carver. And so he carved a grandmother or mother holding on to the child. And that was the last thing you seen before the child was dragged away to residential school. And I really wanted to acknowledge and thank the district and all the local governments here. I mean, this is the second one I've gone to. I have two more next week. And it's a special invitation tonight to thank you for participating with us and walking with us and being instrumental in helping us reconcile Canada's darkest chapter in the history of Canada. And all these truths are coming to the surface now. And before true reconciliation can happen, the truths have to be told. And so when CIA goes out and gives awareness, we do it without shame, without blame, without pointing fingers. We just want to make everyone aware of what happened in those schools to make sure it never happens again. And I really thank you, and I hold my hands up to you for continually walking with us. Now, I really want to thank one of your staff members, Siobhan. Siobhan has been a true ambassador for your government to the CIA movement. I really think she should be acknowledged. And I thank her tonight. And I do have a gift for you. I came with a gift and an invitation. I'll let the mayor read out it's the phrase for CIA Days this year. Thank you. Yep. And that was done by my cousin Shane Jackson. And we gift that to you tonight and you can read out the saying on it.
Right. We can't change what happened, but we can change the way we see.
Yeah, we can't change what happened in those schools, but we can also let everybody, make everybody aware and make them aware that we're reconciling, that we're in this together. We journey we journey together and we will walk together now. And because our survivors still need to be held up. What happened in those schools were atrocious. And if you hear all the stories from right across Canada, it all amounts to genocide. And I have so many horrifying stories that came from my family, my family members, my aunts, my uncles told me what happened to them in those schools. And I wish that upon nobody. I mean, I'm recovering from a major stroke, but my illness is pale in comparison to what happened to our people. And when the truths are being told, we cannot forget what happened in those schools. That's why we keep bringing out the truth of what happened in there, so that we will never forget what happened and what happened to Canada's most vulnerable people at that time, because they were innocent children. They were between the ages of 5 and 8 when they were taken away to the residential school. And if the parents didn't allow them to go, then the RCMP jailed the parents. But I'm here to invite you for an invitation. There's many events coming up, and I know CIA Days is going to happen from June 21st to July 1st again. But the first one is May 29th, and we're doing an awakening ceremony at our behind the House of Clans, and I'd like to ask that if you want to send a couple of reps to that. The awakening ceremony, we've asked one of our elders. We never got a chance to ask the elder before she passed away. Barbara Higgins did her ceremony. So her daughter is honored that we are going to ask her to do that ceremony. We're going to do the awakening ceremony too. The awakening ceremony and the reconciliation pole. That's going to be behind the building. And then the next day, there's going to be a sacred mask ceremony happening at the same place. We're going to bring out the sacred mask to put a blessing on that totem pole before it's raised, and then it'll be unveiled on June 23rd. So May 29th and 30th, if you want to send a couple of reps to the event. And the 30th is very sacred. There'll be no recordings and no photos to be taken. It's a very strict ceremony. And if you're invited to that ceremony, you're very honored because it's so special. Not very many people get to see that ceremony. And then on June the 8th, we're having the survivor ceremony in the Longhouse that we're hoping that your council can come and join us. What we've been doing for the last couple of years, and that's why I put my hands up to all of the local governments, industry, and all the funders, and the provincial government, federal government, and other funders who actually helped us raise enough money to make regalia for all the survivors. And the ones who have passed on, the family members going to be standing in for them. And what we're going to do on June the 8th is we're going to have all of our survivors in the Longhouse, and we're going to stand them up, and we're going to dress them in regalia, and we're going to give them their identity back that was stolen from them from the residential school. And then on June 23rd, we're going to unveil the pole. And it's very special to me because me and my wife have been fundraising along with CIA for our youth. Right after the unveiling of the pole, our youth are going to dance in the same spot that they tried to kill our culture. They tried to destroy our culture. It's the same spot where they gathered all our masks, all of our regalia, all of our drums, all of our rattles, put them into a big pile and burnt them in front of our people. That's what happened in that school in Seashell. But our culture is coming back strong now. And our youth are going to dance in the same spot where Canada and the churches try to kill our culture. And I just wanted to let you know I'm honored to come before you tonight to invite you to these, because you're part of this process, and I want to thank you. And hopefully after on June the 8th, we're also going to have a feast in the Longhouse. And as part of CIA Days, I'm hoping that the invitation goes out that we can come and attend an event that's probably going to happen in our community hall. We're having Chief Robert Joseph, who started the reconciliation walk in Vancouver. He thought he was going to get a couple thousand people. He had 50,000 people walk with him in that walk a few years ago. And he's part of the Reconciliation Canada. And it was part of the movement that had the 94 calls to action. And I want to thank you, and I'm really hoping that reconciliation doesn't die, because I really believe it's becoming stagnant within the federal government and the provincial government. Because the 94 calls to action, only 11 have been achieved so far, and none have been done last year. That's why I think our grassroots movement, and along with everybody who's on the coast who's walking with us, we can keep this momentum going. I want to thank you. Is there anything I missed?
Well, I thought of one thing
Yeah.
that I'd like to highlight is that some of you know that the approach to Canada Day that the District of Sechelt has supported and championed has been recognized at CBC and Global Mail in previous years. But this year we've had a researcher from a university back east contact us to see if they can do research on what has happened here with the approach that CIA and the District of Sechelt has taken to Canada Day. And they're interested because it's unique across Canada. And so I tell you that because I want to recognize your contributions and as Gary mentioned, the contribution of your staff to helping to make this happen. What we've all done together is recognized across the country. And our MP has contacted us and said, you know, he wants to make sure that he's available for CIA Days. He wants to know what we're doing so that he plans his schedule around CIA Days. So what we're all doing together is being recognized, and we are starting to have visitors from Vancouver come for CIA Days, and it's starting to get some momentum that, as Gary says, is worth continuing as a municipal response.
Thanks. Thank you, Kathleen. Yeah.
And Chief Robert Joseph, he actually published a book on reconciliation, so he's going to do a book reading when he comes to Sechelt.
Great. Thank you. I just want to make sure if Mayor Reed, would you have anything to add? You're muted though.
Okay, thank you very much, Mayor Henderson and Council. It's great that our community has the luxury of a leader like Gary Festruck, who's bringing our communities together, moving us in the right direction. But we can't do it without the support of other elected bodies like yourselves. And we know, John, we can count on you and your council. We really, really appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so we've got May 29th, 30th, and June 8th and June 23rd, and the week from, or 10 days, I guess, from July 21st to, or June 21st to July 1st. Right.
And I believe the 22nd, Echo Alec and
Oh, yes,
is gonna be
yes, you
showing
mentioned.
her film Awakening in our community hall,
Right.
followed by a short workshop and then a performance. She's going to perform after, along with Catherine Denham.
I think many on council, I hope everybody on council knows Echo, so yeah. Great, well, thank you very much. Okay, thank you to our corporate officer for reminding me I forgot to adopt the agenda. So is there any amendments or corrections, et cetera? It's a long agenda, so we'll keep that in mind, please. And if entertain a motion, please, and seconded, and all in favor? Adopted. So we've done item 4.1. Excuse me, we'll go to item 5.1, and this is before council for consideration. I note that we received it yesterday afternoon, so not sure, don't know how you council you want to proceed, but I look to you for comments and discussion.
The
Please.
staff want to introduce it?
I would be happy to. Thank you through the chair. So this policy was brought forward due to mayor and council concerns with staff and council communication. The policy looks to increase the efficiency of communication between staff and council. The way about doing it does show that we would be communicating both in meetings and through verbal and electronic communication through the acting mayor or the Councillor Rowe, who is the assigned acting mayor, before proceeding with communication. So we recognize this as a different way of process, but we were looking for some change while we wait for the governance audit report to be completed by our consultant and feel that this is the most appropriate way to do it moving forward. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Council, yep, Councillor Shepherd.
To the chair, so when the government audit or the governance audit comes forward in 6 or 8 weeks or whatever the timing, then does the issue come back to council? If there is going to be a change in the policy, what happens at that point? Thank you.
Happy to speak to that through the chair. With the review date is July 31st, with the intention of it being a short period of time to see if we're able to meet the goal of increasing the effectiveness of communication. With that said, we can review it at any time. So if the governance audit report meets the needs of improving communication, then we could relook at this policy and amend it or withdraw it or do what we'd like at that time. So the intention is to go until July 31st, but we can't go past that without a review. So it could be at any time in the next approximately 90 days. Thank you.
Thank you. Other comments, council? Have you had a chance to review this, or you? Please.
I'm just pointing out that, I mean, I think it's fairly straightforward. You know, this is something that staff have brought forward to us, and I think we need to be supporting this. I understand it's a change in practice, but you know, if we all work together as the team that we are, and it's for a short time frame, I don't have any issues with it.
Thank you. So, yes, Councillor Toth.
Thank you. I don't know what page number it is because it's a late attachment, but I'd like to move that council communication policy 1.3.19 be adopted.
Okay, seconded. Okay, and this, I suppose the key question implicit in you speaking to it, Councillor Rowe, you're okay with the workload?
I will be transparent. I had a conversation with my employer this morning, just suggesting I might have some municipal priorities that need to be worked into the workday. And I have their full support, given that this is a short time frame. Okay.
Thank you.
Yep.
To clarify then, if I may, will we be able to talk to any of us to our executive assistant? Or just happen to look at our corporate officer?
I'm happy to speak to that. Thank you for the question, Mayor. The policy work is for all staff, and so this would mean that with the executive assistant, that would be with the deputy mayor.
Okay. Okay, anything else? I will call the question. All in favor? Okay, that's fine. Motion carries. All right, we'll go to item 5.2, our consolidated budget book. And I'm sure that Mr. Douglas has some comments for us.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. So from the last time you seen the budget book, there was just a couple of changes. We found 4 pages that reference the Housing Accelerator Fund. And so those references were removed. And then of the agenda package, we swapped out page 92. One of the counselors pointed out there was some
Are you
confusion.
referring to 92 in the book or 92 in our agenda?
The 92 of the agenda package.
Okay, thank you.
Was swapped out, as one of the counselors, pointed out that there was some confusion on that page. Other than that, that's all.
So, okay, so so 92 is the capital reserve contribution?
That's correct.
Am I correct to get us started that the staff report at the beginning is the same as what we received last week?
Yes, it is, Your Worship.
So, but there are changes to the document that we received.
That's correct, and I've highlighted what those changes were, but no changes to the no changes to the 5-year financial plan in any way.
No, but sorry, it just, so you just said like page 92 has changed. I couldn't catch up with the other ones, but those have changed, but the report covering it, this book hasn't changed.
That's correct. I don't believe the report on the front really said anything to those pages that were either amended or swapped out.
Okay. Council following this, so if you could repeat again, then what are the changes that you're now identifying for us?
Okay, on page 92.
Yes,
Of the asset contribution to capital.
is on
One of
what
the
page?
counselors pointed out there's some confusion to the additional operating request page.
Which is page, I get it, page 92 has been changed. I thought you said there were a couple of others.
Then Counselor McLaughlin had pointed out that one page had a reference to the Housing Accelerator Fund.
Uh-huh.
And so in just reviewing, there were 3 other ones that also had a reference, whether it be in the paragraph body or at the bottom of the page. And those were just amended to take out any reference to the Housing Accelerator Fund.
So there's 3 other pages in addition to 92 that have been changed. Everybody okay or following that? Okay. Okay, council, your turn. No? Since we'll be publishing this, I did notice page 24. of our agenda package. There's a typo in the top line. And I guess we should amend the bottom to show, since this will be the final document, there should be an anticipated finalization of the process.
As I described, the community of the whole, it's a living document. So if we have any minor changes to make, we'll make them as we go. Obviously, if there's any changes that affect the budget, that would have to come back to council for that.
No,
But-
we've got a document that's saying we're doing things in April and we're now in May. So, and of course you can fix the typo.
Correct. All right, that's fine. And the drafts will come off after today as well.
Okay. Anybody got questions? No? Okay, I did ask one and I wanted to come back to it because while the 5-year document is not that big a deal, oops, this is on page 33. So I'm interested in the assumptions underlying the 5-year plan with respect to the top line, taxation and other levies, because looking at our budget in 2024 and then in 2025, that's almost 10% increase. And other levies are pretty small out of the total revenue from taxation. So I'm curious why, like, what is the assumption? Because I think the rest of the years are about 6%. So what is the underlying logic or assumption that you taken into account to decide to set?
So the overall assumption for 25 and 26, we would be seeing a similar tax increase to this year at this point, just looking forward. And reasonable new construction numbers as well, like similar to this
We're
year.
just talking taxation, just the one line,
And that new construction is in that line.
right? So we'll have people paying tax on new construction next year. That's why it's higher?
That's one of the reasons that it's higher, yes. It's the same as this year. We had some new construction this year. It's why the taxes are a little higher this year.
Mhm.
Plus the increase that we've had.
Okay. So, okay, so it's essentially, the reason for 10% is new construction plus whatever increase. And then after that, the 6% is just our guess, frankly, at what.
Yeah, the further you go out, it's less accurate, but you're taking a look at it, your best guess from this point forward, yes.
Okay, thank you. 56, please. Sorry, not 56. So we're gonna have to leave that. No, I made a typo in my notes, I realized. I do notes the community facilities document, and it's more for council for our benefit, but there's a lot of money in that page. Well, I'm sorry, my note, I must have a typo. So I thought it was page 56, but it's the community facilities. 65? 65. Oh, I bet I used the page 50, probably 56 of the budget document. So that's 65. So my question for you, Mr. Douglas, is this makes it look, why are we providing or what are we spending all this money on, for example, in salaries to administer Rockwood and the other facilities that we have. And contract services, it seems like a heck of a lot of money for what is described as community facilities.
So at the top of the page, it describes all the community facilities, including municipal hall and wharves. So it's capturing quite a number of facilities that we have out there. Specifically to the question, I'm not so sure I can answer that fully. I'd have to look at some of the breakdowns to tell you that.
So, okay, this section, community facilities, includes wharves?
Yep.
Still seems like a lot of manpower. Manpower is in salaries and wages and. Okay, maybe you can educate us or have somebody clarify what really, or what is in this, because the preamble, of course, doesn't say wharves or if there are indeed other things. Okay. I flagged this last at the committee of the whole, and I thank Mr. Douglas who came back for with some data, but wanted to speak to council again about the business multiplier. We did get an email from Mr. Douglas, as I mentioned, and I see too many closed doors on Cowrie Street. I know many businesses are struggling a lot, and they pay almost 2.5 times the tax that homeowners do. And as we learned, but I want people to understand, I think it's right to say an average business, if it was reduced to 1-to-1, the same ratio as residential, then a business would save $4,500, and each homeowner, an average homeowner, would pay $163 more. I realize we don't have a lot of time left to complete our statutory or meet the statutory deadline for the budget process, but I'd like council's views on making a change of this sort, recognizing that it's difficult times and inevitably if a business is paying something to us, then it's coming out, the residents end up paying in higher costs to business. Or higher cost for the products or services we purchase from them. So yes, Councillor Inkster, please.
As has been discussed throughout this process, council's had a number of meetings on the budget. So obviously we're at the end of that particular discussion, but I'm perfectly willing to talk about that going into the next budget year based on where we are now. As being someone who introduced and pushed for a 2.0 multiplier a number of years ago. But we have to have a fulsome discussion on this issue. When I argued for successfully that we lower the business multiplier to 2%, a number of other nearby municipalities were up over 3%. And other municipalities throughout BC were up over 3% in a lot of cases. So I thought that was a good move for us to make. But this is why we need to have a more fulsome discussion. When we were talking about 2.0 business multiplier, the tax increase at that point, and I brought in 3 of them, 0, 1.5, and I believe 2% tax increases, were quite a bit lower than the 6, 7, and 8 that we see now. So consequently, what has happened is if any decisions we make to shift some of those business costs onto the residential and or homeowner has a larger effect in terms of overall dollars, because the budget has gone up quite substantively since I asked for that in the early 2000s, but also the annual increase has gone up quite substantively. So I look forward to that discussion, but we need to start then talking about some of the decisions we need to make in order to have those changes not reflect too hard on the residential homeowner.
Mhm.
Thanks.
Great, thank you. Any other comments? Counselor Tom?
Thank you. I'm hoping Director Douglas can remind us what a one-to-one multiple would actually do as a percentage on the residential taxes. Like what an increase.
It's
That would represent.
$163.
Yeah, but how many, what percentage is that? Because that's what the newspapers report.
Well, no, you've talked on both sides of that in the past, which I agree
Well,
with.
Counselor Inkster just referenced 0, 1.5, and 2%.
Oh,
So I'd like to compare, if we're talking about changing the multiplier
So-
one
yeah,
to
no, the
one,
multipliers.
what does that increase look like to the residential taxpayer?
So it's in an email here on the 26th, I think.
Yes.
Set at a 2 times, this would cause a tax shift from business residential. Business class would see a 19% decrease, and residents, it would add 2.69 on to where we are. For a 2, and 1 times, it would be a 8.5% on top of what we have. And it would reduce the business class by 59%.
Okay, other comments? Counselor Shepherd?
Yeah, I guess I'd echo Councillor Inkster's comment. I'd be happy to take a look at it for the next budget run. We're right at we've gone through a process here, so I think we should finish, but yeah, we've been really trying to bring down taxes from the previous year. So I'm hesitant to try and open it up this year for 2024, but and I did take a look at the Director of Finance's spreadsheet of all the municipalities, and our rate seems to be within the range of other municipalities of sort of 10,000 people, if not lower than other municipalities in more urban areas. So it's something we can look at. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Yeah, I agree with that. It's the challenge is it's an opportunity for us to attract other business, perhaps if we happen to have lower taxes. Councillor McLaughlin, please.
Yes, thank you, through the chair. So this is the business property tax. I'm concerned about small businesses in the village as well, but a lot of them lease their space. And a lot of them are going, it seems some of the ones I've talked to are going out of business because some of the ownership of those commercial buildings has been sold and their rent has gone up like 50%. So in that case, giving a tax relief to commercial properties isn't necessarily going to really get service and help to those, I think, that are showing the reason why businesses are leaving the village. So while I'd like to help them in some way, I don't think this is really the way to do it. Thank you.
Thank you. Please, Councillor Todd.
Thank you. As one of those business owners that leases space in the downtown core, my rent is made up of 2 components. There's my base rent and then the triple net. And the triple net includes taxes, common area maintenance, groundskeeping, things like that. And even like the triple net where I am makes up about 25% of my total per square foot rent. So even if we decrease the tax burden on commercial businesses substantially, there's still other things we're paying for, ice control in the winter time and maintenance and security and common power. So I think it's an interesting conversation, but as both a residential homeowner here and a residential business owner here, my business taxes that I pay are tax deductible as part of my cost of running a business. My home taxes are not. So, thank you.
Great. Councillor Inkster.
Thank you. If we, in fact, moving forward, have a discussion on this issue, it will be an interesting one because it will talk about whether the lowering of the business multiplier and the resultant savings to those renting, to those who own buildings will, in a sense, increase the supply in time of building business buildings, which will then create rental situations, and perhaps that will increase supply at a lower multiplier, although there's many other factors going on now. There's inflationary issues with building new buildings, we know that. So that's an issue that needs to be taken into consideration, but we have to decide, it's almost unscientific, but we have to decide whether our decisions to lower it fractionally will lead to the building of more business buildings and lead to an oversupply, which will then drive down prices, as well as the taxes on the existing buildings, meaning that the owners of the existing buildings pass on the savings and a reduced tax to the renters of those buildings. So there's two factors that will have to go into our discussion. And it's speculative, what we do. We're fairly low now, but if we were to lower it, I think other than the speculative sense of lowering potentially rents for renters, but also increasing, hopefully, the likelihood of more buildings being built, business buildings being built for rent and attracting more business to the area with lower rents. What I think we also may be doing, and hopefully it's part of it, is sending the message that we're open for business. And that's an important piece that's not necessarily considered, but it's something I consider. Thanks.
Yeah, great, thank you, well said. Okay, council, anything else? Would you like to proceed? Councilor Rowe.
I'll move the recommendation that the 2024 to 2028 Consolidated Financial Plan book be endorsed.
Second. Okay, any further discussion? All in favor? Carried. That, we go to, I think I'm right to say we go to page 180. And this is the bylaw 629. Okay. Any comments or please, Councillor Shepherd?
I'll move the recommendation on page 180.
So we're doing recommendation and then we'll do the bylaw, all right. Okay, all in favor? Oh, sorry, were you? Oh. Well, okay, any discussion? Yeah. 21, did I? Okay. 621. Okay. So that's the recommendation we're voting on. All in favor? Carried. We then go to the actual bylaw, which is on page 185. And this, so how does council wish to proceed? Councillor Shepherd.
I'll move that council approve the bylaw to adopt the financial plan for the years 2024 to 2028 for the district city shelter.
Yeah, so.
First reads.
So are you moving first reading of the bylaw, Councillor Shepherd? Okay, that's a second. Okay, all in, and this is, so just for clarity in the video, this is the bylaw 621, 2024, on page 185 and subsequent pages. All in favor of first reading? Carried. Sorry, opposed, I'm assuming. Did you vote? You're in favor? Thank you. Okay, motion carries. So then we go to next one, 6. Oh, you want to do a second reading? Of course you do. Are you moving second reading? Might remind council, we did change or add to our procedures bylaw. We could do them all at once if you wish. So in this case, a motion for second reading, moved and seconded, all in favor? Carried. And who would like to say third reading?
I'll move third.
And second. All in favor of third reading? Carried. Okay, and we've got the staff report on page 191. This is in respect to bylaw 622. Yes. Anybody want to say sure? Sure.
Sure, I'll move first reading.
No, this is
Oh,
recommendation.
recommendation. Confused.
Thank
I
you.
will move the recommendation.
Okay, it's a recommendation to give readings to bylaw number 622. All in favor? Carried. Okay, so then we go to page 194, which is the actual bylaw, number 622, 2024. And this is before us for 3 readings. Counselor Toth,
I'll do it properly this time. I'd like to move first, second, and third readings of this bylaw, please.
seconded. Okay, everybody okay with that? All in favor? Carried. Okay. Sewer user fee amendment bylaw 426, the recommendation. We have a motion to you does say yes
Yes, I will move recommendation for bylaw 426.
on page 197. Thank you. Thank you. All in favor? Go to the bylaw itself. And Counselor Inkster? You'll move. We give first, second, and third reading to bylaw number 426-19, 2024. Seconded. Everybody okay? I don't want to move too quick, but, okay, all in favor? Carried. Okay, we've got staff report on 202. Move to accept the recommendation. Seconded, all in favor? Carried. And the bylaw itself is on page 204. This is bylaw number 483-7, 2024. You could go 3 fingers and I'll know what you're talking about. And a second of the 3 fingers. All right. Okay, any discussion? Okay, all in favor? Carried. We then go to 206, which is the staff recommendation for the fees and charges amendment bylaw. Don't make me beg. Thank you. Yeah, I know. Yeah, thank you. Seconded. All in favor of the recommendation? Carried. The actual. Is it? Is looking, no code? Okay, yes, Counselor Inkster. So motion to give first, second, and third readings to the bylaw number 575-15. Thank you. Second. Everybody got all that they want on that? I'll call the question. All in favor? Carried. By the way, I apologize. I didn't note that Councillor Bell is away, traveling, so she sends her regrets for today's meeting. Page, that finishes some of our compliance work. We go to page 211. And this is protection of trees on District of Seashell public lands. And some recommendations. Who is speaking to this? Hmm? Oh, look who's there. Great. Mr.
Good evening,
Niles.
Mayor and Council.
Good evening.
Thank you for having me here. The proposed bylaw amendments are a result of a group of people made up of Parks, Community Services, Public Works, and Bylaw Enforcement that has reviewed unpermitted tree removal, pruning, and damage that has occurred in district lands that are not within parks. Over the past year, there have been 20 such incidents, with the latest occurring on Marmot Road. And there has been no recourse to issue bylaw notices or larger fines under the MTI bylaw. In other words, we have been able to do nothing more than stand by and say tisk, tisk. The proposed amendments empower the district staff bylaw enforcement officers to issue fines of $1,000 under the MTI bylaw and to seek a conviction under the Offence Act for more serious violations of the Highway and Parks bylaw. Each cut or damaged tree would be a separate and distinct violation. Trees are a valued natural asset of the community and must be protected. As part of the amendments, tree removal for cosmetic or aesthetic reasons are prohibited. Pruning would also be prohibited, as this practice invariably shortens the life of a tree and would result in the district having to move the tree at its own expense. Where tree removal is necessary for development, driveways, or where a tree has become diseased or dangerous, there is a mechanism for the approval of the removal of the tree. And that is the policy that is part of the package before you tonight. There are also some minor housekeeping amendments to help with the regulating of unlicensed vehicles on district highways and some better definitions. I can answer any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Niles. Who wants to start, please?
Thank you. Just a quick question. I believe $1,000 is the limit of what we can fine currently. Just looking for confirmation that that's the case. And the province had been talking about making some changes to environmental protection fine limits. I'm wondering if any of those changes would apply to this work. Used to work landscaping, and honestly, a $1,000 fine is not much of a deterrent to somebody who wants a view. Thanks.
Mhm.
To Councillor Toth through the mayor, the $1,000 is the limit presently of the MTI or the Municipal Ticket Information Act. But we do have the option of fining for each individual tree that is damaged or otherwise removed. And we have the option of, for a more egregious violation, of going to an Offence Act prosecution. Now, I have heard the same thing, that the province is looking at these levels, not only of the Bylaw Notice Enforcement Act, but also the Municipal Ticket Information Act. And any such amendments that will come through in those acts, I will gladly bring them before the council.
Thank you. Yes, Councillor Inkster.
Just a couple of questions. I'm happy to see this. Just, I don't know a lot about the particular matter that is being referenced. I just want to ask through you then to staff, were the trees in question killed? And in the damages mentioned, and were the trees, do we know, because we may not, whether the trees were expensive trees planted by ourselves, the municipality, which we're doing a lot of, or were the expensive trees planted as part of, by developer as part of an original development? So, i.e. a lot of money put into these trees that were then damaged. Do we know any of that information? It's helpful. Thank you.
Okay, it's helpful. So were the trees killed?
That is a great question. And I will first qualify my answer by saying that I am not an arborist, but we do have an excellent arborist on staff, and we have talked about what damage means to different species of trees. For example, topping of a conifer is a decedent. When you take the top off of a Douglas fir or a western red cedar, the tree will slowly enter into a decline of disease and eventually become a dangerous or hazardous tree. Whereas if you had something like a laurel, you could cut 3/4 of it back, and in 2 years, it's like it was never pruned back at all. So it really is a specific thing. Now, insofar the value of trees, you can use the International Society of Arborists evaluation, in which you would have, for example, a healthy western red cedar, which is 90 centimeters diameter at breast height, would have a value of $75,000 monetarily. We are looking at more the value of trees for their aesthetic purposes, and the fact that they do retain soil and improve the quality of our roadsides considerably by just being there.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, please. The mic.
Thanks for that, through you to Mr. Niehaus. My question was more, were they district assets in the sense that we planted them because we have a tree program? Do we know that? And do we know if they were planted by, I mean, we have a lot of sort of bonds in place, and we expect, I shouldn't say we expect, but we work with the development industry to make sure the neighborhoods are beautified and beautiful. And then somebody comes along after the requirements have been in place for either we spend taxpayers' money or the requirements in place for developers to put trees in that people then destroy. So I'm just wondering if in this case that happened, because those are stringent requirements for the developers, and it's a lot of extra money. And so it would be interesting to hear if we have stringent rules in place after all that work was done with cooperation of the development industry or the District of Sechelt vegetation plans, which I think are very robust. And what do we know about those trees? Because it will go to how we proceed going forward into terms of bylaw enforcement and fines. Thanks. And bylaw research on making sure that this isn't done continuously. There's also erosion and things like that are caused by trees that we've asked people in the development industry and otherwise to put in place for very good reasons. They put a lot of money into it themselves, and then this happens. So I think we need to know a little bit so that as we go forward, we're pretty stringent on things. Thanks.
Certainly. To Councillor Inkster, through the mayor, Mr. Hall would be able to answer a question about required plantings insofar as developments and subdivisions. But looking at the addresses that was provided to me by the manager of community services, I see a lot of those streets are fairly recent ones, and probably did have plantings as a result of the development. Now, where I believe the developers will provide securities for the survival of a tree that entails proper maintenance insofar as watering and feeding the tree. But after such point, it does become part of our property, and somebody who would damage a tree or take it down, that would be a bylaw offense.
Yeah, there's obviously pride with the builders who put those trees in the District of Sechelt. So thanks for that information, but we should keep all that in mind when we make a decision. Thank you.
Thank you. Please, Councillor Rowe.
A question about unlicensed vehicles. What's the process? So, let's say we have one parked in the same spot for a month and isn't insured and licensed and all that. What is the process that we go through, or do we use the RCMP, try and find the owner? Like, what happens to that vehicle?
And we, to Councillor Rowe through the mayor, we've cleaned up our definitions so that we can execute the provisions of the community charter under section 76, I believe, where we have the ability to tow a abandoned vehicle from city highways, if you will, And we can take custody of that vehicle for 72 hours, giving the owner an opportunity to contact us as to the whereabouts of it. After that time, we are entitled under the community charter to dispose of that vehicle as we see fit. Now, this is something that we've had some issues of abandoned vehicles on district highways and streets. And we did seek a legal opinion on this. And our policy around this is that we will tow a vehicle and take custody of it for 30 days and make an honest attempt to contact the owner either by the last known VIN number, or where we are not able to do that, by publishing a photograph of it in our social media. After 30 days, we can dispose of it as we see fit. We can give it away for scrap or sell it, or have it otherwise demolished and removed.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Davis. Others? I must confess, when I read this, I thought I was going to read about trees, and in the middle, suddenly we're talking about vehicles. Why is this all part of the same bylaw, I guess? Is there a link to them that I'm missing?
Your worship, we felt this was an opportunity to clean up a bit of what would be an enforcement sore point for us. We had targeted bylaw 516 for having some challenges for us to be able to enforce it. And we thought that it would be wise to bring that forward, as our bylaw enforcement team did feel it was an urgent matter. And so I did group it with this bylaw change. I hope that is acceptable.
Thanks. So I guess I take from that you, not sure where to look, where. We have some vehicles in that category that if this is approved, you would be able to act on right away?
We will have that capability.
Right, that I understand you'll have that capability. I see Director Allen's hand.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just wanted to add to that. There has been challenges across the district, particularly in the downtown area, with vehicles in particular owned by deceased individuals. We see vehicles abandoned everywhere. This does give us the powers and the tools. That said, we don't have specific budget allowance for this at this point. So our revenue to pay for towing and so forth is just purely based against future fines and so forth. So we have to be very careful and measured in that. And we may, should council desire, wish to come forward for budget proposal for next year to help sort with this problem. But it's a growing problem that we're seeing across various aspects of the district.
Okay, and my question was, do we already have a list of vehicles that we're saying, hey, this gets approved, we can act on it?
We've acted on some of those vehicles now, but we may have a short list, but we're not going to be acting on that immediately as of tomorrow.
Sorry. So you do have a short list?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Council, other things? Yes, please.
Thank you. I don't have anything to add, and it sounds like we've sort of run our course on this one. I'm willing to move recommendations 1, 2, and 3 on page 211 as presented.
Okay, a second. Okay, I'm gonna suggest, I'll be in support of that motion, although I'm gonna suggest we give first reading only tonight. Give us a chance. Some of this about views are very complex, the views of who, and I see replanting of trees. You plant an alder in front of my view, I'm not going to be very happy in about 2 years. So, you know, some of that I like to make sure we all get it right. But this is the recommendation. So all in favor of that recommendation? Yes. Yes. Okay. All in favor? Okay. Great. So we have before us, policy 5.3.3. Hang on. Sorry, I've got to deal with 5.3.1 is the old one, so that's the attachment. So I guess we're going to 6.6 B. Am I right? Our corporate officer? We're voting on the bylaw 516-4.
That's correct, Your Worship. The recommendation is missing the -4 on page 211. The bylaw itself is correct.
Yes, thank you. Okay. How do you wish to proceed, council? You've got it in front of you.
I just wanted to ask a quick question because you mentioned only giving first reading to these tonight. And so I just wanted to double check. If we give first, second, and third tonight, we can adopt at a subsequent meeting or defeat or refer it back for changes. If we give first reading tonight, can we do second, third, and adoption at subsequent meetings, or do we have to do second and third and then adoption at a subsequent after that?
I think it's got to, go ahead. Do you want to?
Thank you. We require 1 day free and clear between third and adoption for this type of bylaw.
Yep. Just for you folks, because when I see statements like motor assisted cycle, I'm concerned that the definitions in today's world, does that include scooters? Does it, we've got the little inline stand-on scooters. We've got whatever the old folks scooters. So I'm concerned on a definition basis that this may not be as effective as perhaps it's intended. So, how do you wish to proceed? Yes.
I'll move first reading. If I hear from council colleagues that they want a bit more time to look
Okay.
at something, I'll support that. So I'll move first reading.
Okay. Is there a seconder? Yep. And please, microphone, please.
So what I was thinking we could do was move first reading and referral to committee of the whole. Because that's where the further discussion may occur. Rather than back to council where we've had lengthy agendas.
Okay, so that's a comment at the moment.
Sure, and if it's
Or are you-
accepted by the mover.
Oh, so you're
Yeah.
proposing for the
friendly-
moment, a
a
friendly amendment.
Yeah.
Looking to see, not feeling the love. No, let's deal with the first reading and then you can perhaps propose your amendment or propose another motion. Yeah. You want to
Yes,
speak
thank
to
you.
first reading?
Yes, maybe it should have gone to committee of the whole, but on the other hand, this is quite a complicated situation, and if administration feels they have it worked out, I mean, I'm hard pressed to challenge their expertise on this. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we have first reading before us. This is in respect, and my computer's tired. Hang on. This is in respect to bylaw number 516-4, 2024, starting on page 219. All in favor of first reading? Opposed? Councilor McLaughlin is opposed. Motion carries. Anything else, folks? Did you want to, Councilor Inkster, your Microphone is on and you're looking quizzical.
I thought Councillor McLaughlin was supportive and then she voted against, so I was a little bit confused. I was attempting to determine with the motion that I added to see if there was acceptance by the mover, that there was council appetite to move it to committee of the whole. I'm not detecting that there is.
No.
I will just leave it as is then. I won't make that motion. I'm not detecting that there's council appetite for that discussion. So.
I think that's why we vote, to find out what council thinks. I would, if it helps, I'm certainly think that's a good way, and it's a way we could expedite it, because of course we have a committee of the whole meeting next week. So it's up to you.
Yeah, I mean, I can certainly recommend that it goes to committee of the whole for discussion. I'm okay with that. I don't see
Okay.
timeliness
So,
with the decisions being made here. It's not like our tax bylaw.
right.
So I'm
Okay,
okay with
so-
that, and I'm
so if you
looking for a
move-
seconder.
I will second that.
Yeah,
Okay.
okay.
So a motion to refer this matter to committee of the whole at the next committee meeting.
Yeah, sometimes we need longer discussion in committee of the
Yeah,
whole on a
huh?
couple of, on
That's why-
some matters.
That's why I
So,
seconded it.
Yeah,
Yep.
okay.
Other discussion? No? Okay, I'll call the question. Oh, are you?
Well, okay, so we've given one bylaw, one reading. There's a couple more attached to this item, right? So are you, and I didn't actually hear you make a motion, so probably why I didn't have my happy, I accept your idea face on. But I'm happy as well to talk about this at committee of the whole. Are you suggesting that these three topics altogether come to committee of the whole?
Well, maybe it's a good distinction. I think it would be the matters encompassed in the report on page 211.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify.
And everything that flows from that.
Okay.
Yeah. Is that your understanding? So it's trees, it's the vehicle, the parked vehicles. No, it's, yes.
No, I get it.
Hmm.
It's just, it's in. But I would say let's send it all.
Right. Okay, well, we get to talk, we get to clean it up in committee of the whole then. Okay. Counselor Toth, thanks.
Thank you. So I just want clarity from a process perspective here, because we did give first reading to 516-4, and now we're talking about referring the entire thing to committee of the whole. So if this passes, we will not be giving readings to 591-4 or 515-14 tonight. I'm just seeking clarity on that.
We could, but we
Well-
probably don't need to.
Yeah, but the motion right now is to refer the whole mess to committee of the whole.
Yes. And then we could test council's will on the other items if we want to do first reading today or not. I think, but it's not a big thing for me.
Well, if we refer it, we're done. There's nothing
Mhm.
further to
Yeah.
vote on with
Yeah.
this particular item
Right.
on our agenda. So it's,
And
yeah.
if we have a good discussion at Cal, then presumably we would be able to do 3 readings. So and we still need that day. So you're right, perhaps no readings make sense today if we adopt, yep. Okay, ready for that question? You clear on the motion? All in favor? Opposed? Councilors McLaughlin and Toth opposed? Okay, motion carries. So with that, we then, I believe, go to page 227, which is the subdivision and development control amendment bylaw. This is before us for adoption. Hey, Mr. Hall has already assumed the position. there something, Mr. Hall, that you wish to add? Something new or?
The bylaw remains unchanged, but we have added in the report some additional information to address the issues that were raised at the last council meeting in terms of sort of working with the Sunshine Coast Regional District, and that work continues and it will be ongoing. We have worked with the development community as well as confirmed that the Seashell Fire Department is also on board with the proposed changes.
Mhm. Great, thanks. Councillor Toth?
Thank you. I just want to seek clarity from you, Chair, because it was your motion looking for some more information. So if you're satisfied with what's here, I'm happy to move the recommendation as presented on page 227.
Okay, so there's an if in that, so you're signifying your intent?
I ask you the question first.
Okay, so, yeah, I still have concerns about delegating the authority and how it would work in practice between the two officials. So this is not in any way concern about their professionalism or anything like that, but two professionals can disagree on things, and that causes me a concern on their behalf. I would like to clarify with the new information, we referenced that various groups are supportive. I'd be interested to know, Mr. Hall, what was the process for, because you didn't say in here, I believe, that you consulted with or discussed the matter with the development community, but I heard you say that just now. What did that look like?
We reviewed all of our active development applications, and given all the issues that we've been dealing with applicants since this issue was first identified by the SCRD, we wanted to reiterate that there's certainly one applicant that was, ready to sign a servicing agreement, that they're in the most unique position in terms of all the other applicants. They were basically one day away from signing the servicing agreement. But separate from them, as noted in the report, there are quite a few other development applications that would potentially be subject to fire flow issues. Certainly a fair amount of subdivisions, but even some of the townhouse developments are in areas that were potentially affected by the regional water system issues. So to kind of highlight that the scope of this is potentially quite expansive.
So, but my question is about how did you, if I heard you correctly a few minutes ago, you said you've checked with the development community.
Yeah, so in talking with the applicants that would potentially be effective.
So you did talk to all of these, whatever, dozen or 15 or whatever, 16, beg your pardon.
Yeah, and we have raised the issue that, as going through this process, that if the fire flow is identified as an issue for their development, that's something that will require further investigation. And if the issue is one where they don't meet the fire flow, that.
Great, no, thank you. So that's what I didn't pick up, that you had actually talked to the applicants, I suppose is the right term at this stage. Councillor Toth and then Councillor Inkster.
Thank you. I'm really supportive of this. When the SCRD was looking at its subdivision issues around water, I spoke quite heavily against the blanket adoption of things like FUS and MMCD. I do believe that our developer community has access to the expertise to work through the problem and to work through the solutions to the problem. And I think this gives the flexibility for our staff and their staff to work together on that. So I'm happy to move the recommendation as presented.
Okay, thank you. Looking for a second. Thank you. Councillor Inkster?
Yeah, I'm supportive of moving forward as well. And I've spoken to this issue a number of times based on the fact that we've been given, Councillor Toth and myself, which I hope I've distributed clear copies to council, have identified the numbers of hydrants in the district of Seashell that may be problematic. And as I spoke to it a number of days ago, number of weeks, I should say, the only ones I can see as being issues going forward are Gowland is the only one I noticed. As I mentioned to council, most of the ones that are in the downtown core and in the high development areas, which would be the slopes going into West Seashell, have decent fire flow. So predictively, I'm supportive of this, and going forward, I think with the small problem areas, staff working with the development industry to clear those smaller problem areas up over the next number of years should be very workable. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor McLaughlin.
Yes, thank you through the chair. I'm not really in support of this. I guess some people we didn't really discuss this with is the public at large. And the public at large are very concerned about water supply and water. And to see this listing here of the number of subdivisions we have, et cetera, I mean, you're looking at about, all totaled, about 500 dwelling units here. So that's maybe 1,000 people that would be housed here or more. And, you know, that's 10% of Seashell's population in growth in just this list alone. And so I'm just concerned that as much as the RD is doing what it can for water, I'm not convinced that we have water security at all going forward. And that what we should perhaps be doing here is focusing on, I think what the public might find more acceptable is to provide perhaps the townhouse developments with some kind of preference for getting this approval, because we're going to go into the summer. People are going to be asked to conserve water. They're going to be getting meters. They're going to be asked to conserve water. Last year, they didn't conserve as much water as they did the year before. And the public is getting quite, I think, quite concerned that their issues regarding water are not being heard. And this kind of approval with this much development, as I've voted all along, does not support water security. And in my mind, looking out for the public interest in terms of planning for the future, planning for existing residents, not just saying it's planning a development and focusing on development. I don't think this kind of development has the type of planning that we need to protect our local residents and their need for water. And so, you know, I don't have faith that we're going to just dig enough wells and have water, that the reservoirs are going to show up just in time to give us water. I'm sorry, I don't. And I think we need to practice the precautionary principle to respect the people that live here now and Seashell Nation, which have a right to water and for long-term security in terms of water. And they're working with us to give us I think by far our best solution to get some short to medium term water to keep this community viable. Because honestly, if we don't have water, I don't know where we go. I don't know what we do. I don't know if we will have a development community. And it's important that we prioritize something here. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor McLaughlin. Councillor Toff?
Thank you. Yeah, this isn't about water supply tonight. This is about fire flow, this is about pipe sizing, and this is about pressures in the zones. Doesn't have anything to do with water supply this time. Thank you.
Okay.
If I could comment
Yes,
on that, it
please.
has to do with water demand. Yeah, supply and demand. That's what we need to look at here. Thank you. Sorry.
Yeah, all right, thank you. Anything else, folks? I do agree with, of course, the bigger picture, which we will be talking about, if not later tonight, certainly in the next day or next week or two. Yes, Councillor.
Well, I mean, we're all.
But to stay on the topic.
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's about fire flows. It's about fire flows, hydrant flows serving our community. And yeah, I mean, we're building needed housing, and then the Seashell Nation is building needed housing on the hillside for their community. So they're working hand in hand with the water purveyors to make sure there's enough pressure in those lines, and we're hearing that there is. Thanks.
Yep, okay. To answer a question that was asked earlier, yes, appreciate the added clarity. I did express my concerns, but I will rely on staff to work them out. I guess if they can't, they would end up coming to us to adjudicate.
I just have one comment in that development doesn't happen overnight, and outside of Silverstone and smaller developments, I think, and Director Allen can correct me if I'm wrong, TELUS is the only project that started during the last term that actually has shovels in the ground. So I don't think we can, just to the comments around housing, I think we need to give the development community a way forward to keep working on what they do best. And I understand the concern, the larger picture, but as Councillor Toss said, this is really about a way forward. And if you looked at how many developments were approved in the last 10 years and how many units were actually built, it's apples and oranges, that conversation. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Where are we? We get a motion?
Yeah.
Right, we did. So we're ready to vote. I will call the question. All in favor? Adopt this, sorry, this is just of the staff report, so, yeah. Opposed, Councillor? Yeah, Councillor McLaughlin is opposed. Motion carries. Then we go to the bylaw itself on page 230, bylaw number 430-06, 2024. And this is before us for adoption. Second. Just for clarity, everything we've heard today, there's no change in this bylaw document. Good. Yeah. Great. Okay. Any discussion? I'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Sorry, opposed. Thank you, Councillor McLaughlin. Motion carries. Right, then that takes us to the 5550 Wharf Lane Road Closure and Disposition Bylaw number 613. I'll entertain, this has been before us as a small matter motion to accept the staff report. Seconded, if need be. Any discussion on this staff report? Yes, please.
Thank you, through the chair. Yeah, I just wanted to highlight that the development in that area tends to have commercial that have internal parking and such, which kind of uses lane type areas in it. So I don't really see this laneway as being useless or not compatible with the downtown village, development for the area, especially looking at the old village plan, which I recently did. So I think it's premature to just say it should be sold and we have no use for it. I think it could be quite well integrated into some kind of design, and we might wish we had some kind of public road there for fire access or whatever at some point. But here because we don't have any design for the area, we don't have any plans for the area, we're just saying, oh, why not close it? So that's why I've been opposed to closing this lane all along. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, hearing and seeing nothing else, I'll call the question. This is on the staff recommendation on page 232. All in favor? Opposed? Councillor McLaughlin is opposed. That takes us to the bylaw itself on page 234, which is bylaw 613, 2023. And, I note that we have received Modi's approval, so that's how this can come to us for adoption. And second, and you may.
Can I just ask that, again, any documentation like this just has a map attached?
There is to the, in the bylaw on page 236.
236, okay, great, okay. I was just looking for it on the actual document itself, but thanks.
Yeah, which
Okay.
is, I agree with the comment, and
Yeah.
as it happens, it is attached, so.
Yeah,
Okay. Any discussion? Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Councillor Inkster, I didn't see you vote.
yeah, I'm okay. The map's just not clear again, but,
You're in favor.
yeah. We just need,
No, that's fine.
we need
Just-
clear maps. Like, yeah.
Okay. Motion carries. So we go to, I believe, 6.9, page 237. And this is, again, for, before us, in respect of 5476 Mills Road. Anything we need to know, Mr. Hall? Good answer. Let the record reflect. Okay. Council? Yes, please, Councillor Rowe.
I just want to make a comment that I appreciate the irrigated lawns are not permitted. And outdoor watering is limited. I just wonder how we define primarily. Landscape planting is limited to primarily indigenous and drought tolerant plants only. Is there a measure of that or is it subjective?
I guess the intent there is through the development permit review process, when we're reviewing the landscape plan component, we'll be looking to see the predominance of indigenous and or drought tolerant species. And if they're not one of those, that what the rationale is for providing other species there.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Okay, I don't think I got a motion, did I? Quickly, very good. I'll take one of you as the mover and the other as a seconder. And any questions? Any further comments? So this is the staff report. We'll get to the bylaw in a minute. All in favor? Carried. Go to 6.9B, and this is on page 239, bylaw number 580-11. And it is before us for adoption, recognizing that we also got Modi's support on the 21st of March. Okay, any discussion? All in favor? Motion carries. At that. So takes us to what everybody's come to hear, which is the minutes. Starting on page 244. Motion to adopt. Everybody had a chance to go through all the minutes? Okay, thank you. I think we'll do them one by one. There's different meetings and different people involved, so. Okay, so this is the meeting minutes of March 27th, 2024. And we have a motion, so and I'll second it if that helps. This is all in favor? Carried. The next one is page 246, which is the meeting of October 11th, 2023. Again, a fairly our standard thing, so moved, seconded, all in favor? Carried. Okay, meeting of April 17th. This is on 248. Hmm? Or B05. Well, pull them. I mean, these are minutes. So we're not, you can bring up other business arising from this. Yes, because as minutes, these are, we're, I guess, confirming that they're accurate and complete. And so then we can, from there, certainly
Can I just
matters arising.
interrupt? Are you guys done? Okay. Yeah,
Thank you.
thanks for coming out.
Yep. Okay. Well, thank you. Okay, so this is 2:48, the meeting minutes of April 17th, 2024. And moved and seconded for adoption. Yep. Okay, any discussion? Because I agree, I do have matters arising as well, but in terms of the meeting minutes, I'm fine. Okay, all in favor of adoption? Carried. Now I realize in our agenda, we don't actually, I don't think we have matters arising anymore, do we? I agree. Yep. So but we got several pages to get through, or, documents, so. Oh, look at that, right at the bottom of the page. Thank you.
We'll get through this.
So page 249 is the one you wanted to reference, Counselor Inkster. No, we'll do them now. Yes, yes, for each one, we'll go approval, and then before we get too far into the future pages. So what would you like to pull? You said you want to. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So what do you want to, what's your recommendation? Right. Now, I recall a conversation about that. I guess it didn't end up in a motion that we were going to look at that soon. But do you remember? Okay, yeah. Yes, please, Mr. Douglas.
Yep, I think we agreed that we would do a report back to
Mhm.
council on that.
So.
And
can
so it
you-
hasn't been started, but it'll come as in the next meeting or two.
Sort of the next month? I'm trying to give you a bit of time.
I'm gonna say it should make it within the next month, yes. 2 weeks, no, but.
Okay, thank you for that. Yeah. So, yeah.
Just a reminder through you to Mr. Douglas, what would be contained in that report?
You're asking him? Okay.
Yeah,
yes,
I
all
mean,
right, 'cause
I can design, I don't design reports for
No, no,
staff. We
so-
just have the discussion and staff
Mhm.
usually reacts to that discussion. So, yeah.
I'm sure, okay, do you have that, or you'll go back and listen to the discussion from April 17th?
Sure, but I think the general feeling was what can we look at for options around relieving them of partial or some, or, whether it be through granting or, mechanisms.
Yep. Okay. Okay, then we'll take that as a gentle support, or do you want a motion?
No, I hear that. Thank you. I hope that it's a fulsome paper on what we could do. I don't mean 100 pages. I just mean there's a number of options and levers that municipalities can utilize in order to
Right.
help groups. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Toth.
Thank you. I'm actually happy to make a motion to refer resolution 2024-4B05 to a future committee meeting with an accompanying staff report regarding options available to us. We'll make it official and, yeah.
Okay, all in favor? Carried. On that same page, I'd like clarity. When, obviously the minutes, 4B-04, when do you think we will get the detailed analysis? Because I regret that I didn't encourage us to put a date on that, so. You wave and I'll translate. No, yeah. Ooh.
Was voted off the island, your worship.
Yeah.
So,
The camera's focusing on the table.
oh. Okay, new experience here. Okay. This is a different view entirely. Yeah, so we've started on the request. I believe Councillor Shepherd initiated that on the capital, every project over 500,000. We're putting that report together. Yeah, we committed to doing that in a month, so before May 17th.
Right, and that's
And-
on 4B-03.
Yes.
Which wasn't, I'm talking about the next one, but, which is about the detailed analysis around the overruns on the Inlet Avenue Road project.
So for the timeline for that, your worship, I would suggest a 2-month timeline.
Okay.
Really to have a fulsome report.
Right.
We
Okay.
should include information from the manager of engineering services who was overseeing the project at the time, who's currently on leave until July.
Okay, so 2 months isn't really enough then.
Yeah.
So, because to your point of following process, shall we ask for that report by the end of July?
I think that's very reasonable. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, is that a motion? Yeah, seconded? Okay. Okay, all in favor of that? Carried. Thank you. You can stay there. Nobody knows you're there until you press the microphone. Okay, council, we go to the meeting of council of April 3rd, 2024. And any comments from anybody? Entertain a motion to adopt. Seconded. Okay, any no discussion, silence. All in favor? Carried. Okay, 7.5 is committee of the whole, and Councillor Shepherd, you were chair, so. Thank you. Second. Yep. Any concerns? All in favor? Carried. Go to 7.6, Committee of the Whole, March 27th. Councillor Rowe, you were in the chair. You're okay?
Yeah.
Okay, move second, all in favor? And we go to the, yes. Okay, the airport committee meeting minutes. What is our policy? Because sitting on that, we haven't seen them at the committee. So I'm not, should the committee not be seeing these and confirming them? Please.
Our typical process with committees, select committees, is for the chair to review the minutes, and then they're presented to council for consideration of adoption and endorsement of any recommendations that may be included.
Right. You're okay? You've done that? Because what I heard, in this case, Councillor Shepherd should see them before they hit our agenda. Yeah. So, okay, so this is March 19th, so you motion. Good. Okay. Okay. Didn't we need to endorse? I thought we already did that at a previous council meeting, no?
Staff cannot act on a recommendation of a committee without endorsement of council.
Right, but I thought that we had done so, because didn't we already apply for the grant?
My understanding is that this is a slightly different topic. A weather station is mentioned in the recommendation. I was not at the meeting.
Oh,
so-
this is not the air ambulance thing, right? Okay, all right, thank you, so this is new. Okay, so you moved it, seconded? I think I saw somebody second it. Okay. All in favor? Opposed? No, you're in favor? Thank you. Carried. That then takes us to the previous Airport Development Committee meeting. And that is before us. Thank you, Councillor Shepherd. Seconded. All in favor? Carried. Yes, that takes us to the Permissive Property Tax Exemption Select Committee. Any comments or concerns, Councillor Rowe? You were the chair? Yeah. Rich. Okay, and so it's a motion to adopt and seconded, and all in favor? And we'll do it again with the meeting of March 28th, the same committee, and seconded, all in favor? We're done. I just want to come back because on 7.6 then to our corporate officer, I see in the minute, in our agenda packages, you're looking for endorsements of various things. Like 7.6, do we need to today endorse recommendation 2?
It was my understanding that the council was following the recommendation on the order paper, which says receipt and endorsement of the recommendation. It was my understanding that that was the motion that was just passed for 7.6.
7.6?
Correct.
Well, we adopted, the motion was to adopt the meeting minutes. So, sorry, it should have said receive the meeting minutes. So you're taking our motion as receive and endorse, and endorse the recommendation.
Correct. It appeared that the recommendation of staff on the order paper was being referred to and
Yeah.
followed when the motion was moved and seconded.
Okay.
If that was incorrect, we
Yeah.
can certainly make a correction, though.
No, I'm more, we'd already written to them, and it just seems kind of strange that we're endorsing something that we must have, we didn't bring it back to council separately. This gets a bit arcane, but, okay, so we'll take it as presented in the agenda package? Yeah, okay. And, I mean, we voted on 7.5 in this meeting, so that we have less concern about that anyways. Okay, great, thank you. So any other business arising from the minutes? Move on. Oops. Yeah.
Okay, Councillor Rowe is screening me. Doing her job already. This is something that I've been struggling with for a while as we deal with the minutes of our council meetings. Quite frequently, we'll give reports as part of our council and SCRD reports that are fairly verbose, let's say, and staff can struggle to capture the summary of the reports. So I'd actually like to make a motion that staff no longer record summaries of SCRD representative or councillor reports and simply state in the minutes that members of council provided verbal updates of their activities. If anybody following along wants to know what we've done, the YouTube videos are available forever. So, yeah, I'd like to make that motion.
Okay. Um, hmm. Come out of the blue, yes?
No, that's fair. It's the standard practice with both the town of Gibson's and the regional district. And it prevents us from having to go back at the next meeting and correct if staff didn't interpret us correctly when they summarized. And it wastes a lot of our time, it wastes a lot of staff time. So I figured it's easier to just get rid of that part of our minutes. Thanks.
Please count. Corporate officer.
Thank you. If I might just add a comment, we're getting quite close to fully implementing our new electronic meeting agendas and minutes system. So when that is complete, our video recording will link to the point in the agenda or the minutes package where that item comes up. So we could certainly list the following counselors made reports, list the names, and you can link directly to that portion of the video.
So that's gonna happen soon.
I'm aiming for a June implementation.
I said a June. Which June? So recognizing that, you need your motion? Councillor Inkster?
So that means that what somebody said it will be electronically recorded, but not necessarily minuted for those corrective concerns that Councillor Hoth mentioned. So it's still, the information is still available to the public. Is that what I'm hearing through you to the
Yes.
corporate officer?
Yes, it will be,
Okay.
but you'll have to go somewhere other than the minutes. There'll be a link, I guess. In the,
When a community member opens the agenda or the minutes package on our website, for example, they will be able to click a
Video.
hyperlink that will open the video automatically.
right. Cool. Better start getting haircuts before council meetings. Councillor McLaughlin?
Yes, through the chair. I'm just assuming that steering committees will be providing minutes to keep us up to date. So that would be more of a written record rather than just
Sorry, steering?
steering committees, like the community safety one.
Yes.
We're talking about council reports.
Right,
Like the ones that we give about
Right.
what we've done
so that would,
in the last week.
they kind of supersede that in reports, proper reports, rather than just counselor reports. I mean, sometimes the meetings are, I think just the reports are just verbal. So, that's just my
Yeah.
concern, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks. I'm
I see
I'm
what,
pretty
I see
sure.
what you're saying,
Yeah.
yeah. I think the issue with our reports is we sometimes say a lot of things that we're not necessarily happy with how they're transcribed. I just think it's messy and I understand the intention, but honestly, I think there's more people watching YouTube than going to our minutes. So that's great news. And I do support the idea of not having staff transcribing our minutes. So if I'm super confident that it's going to happen in June, then I'm less fussed about Alton's excellent motion.
So we have a motion. Okay, ready for the question? All in favor? We're not. in favor. Okay. Okay, motion carries. which then brings us to the SCRD Regional District Representatives Report. Who's starting?
I can start. Counselor Inkster can fill in on what I forget. It's May 1st. Stage 1 watering restrictions are now in place for the SCRD water systems. May 1st happens to also be the day that almost all of the other water systems across the province move into Stage 1 restrictions. So it's not just us. We do expect to get a water update at the committee meeting next Thursday. We all know that the snowpack is low. Again, that's a standard thing right across the province this year. One thing that I keep having to remind people on is that the Chapman water system is a rain-dependent system. The only thing that snow does for us is tell us when we're going to be going to Stage 2. And for anybody who's listening on YouTube, because they won't read it in the minutes anymore, Stage 2 gets called when water stops flowing over the weir at Chapman Lake. So at that point going forward, we're relying on wells and storage. So yeah, if you've got any pressure washing to do or hot tubs to fill, now's the time. Any water that we don't use during Stage 1 is only going to the ocean. And then other than that, the only other thing that I want to report on was that there was a contract amendment that came forward to add assessments of the wells at Cliff Gilker Park and Sunshine Coast Arena to the well drilling project that will explore water sources in the Seashell area. So for Cliff Gilker Park, the intention there is to develop a system that can irrigate the sports fields at Cliff Gilker. And of course, the Sunshine Coast Arena one we've talked about in the past, being able to hopefully use that for ice making purposes. And beyond that, I'll leave it up to Councilor Inkster. Thanks.
Thank you.
I'll touch on a few other issues because Councillor Toth talked about water, which it's a good day to talk about it with May 1st. But just reiterating, because we keep hearing from some members of the public that we haven't managed our water file well, but just a reminder that the snowpack is low and throughout BC. And I'll say it again. And soon it'll be available on YouTube, I guess. And many areas are going to Stage 1 May 1st. But also too, and I think council knows this, there's already been a large fire in BC. So the issue over dryness, which we've seen a number of them over the last number of years, the high dry years and the hot years on record, hot years have come in the last number of years. So that's why there's one of the reasons why there's a water issue. Just a reminder to council, there's a climate discussion that I think a number of us have been invited to. And if council hasn't, I'm getting looks, so we'll see if we can find that information if people haven't been invited to that. So, because I think it's 2 days of climate discussion. And that's what this is all about, is whether some people question that there's actually climate changes with about 8 billion people on the planet. Obviously we've had an effect on the planet with 8 billion of us and the work we do and how we live and stuff like that. So that's one of the reasons why there's some dry issues throughout. Specific to some agenda items at the regional district, there was some good discussions last week, some agenda items. I'm assuming the alternates get the agendas and have downloads of them and once again, if they don't, we have to figure out a way to, Councillor Toth and I talk about making sure you guys either get them or have access to them. There was some discussion of local food growing farms and water needs, and that discussion will continue because we're trying to figure out how to continue to support local food production, which is seriously needed. And it's all about sustainability at a local level, but also have enough water for drinking and firefighting, as was mentioned. So it's going to be a good discussion. There's a number of contracts for awards awarded last week. One of them was for replacement equipment on the Gibson's pool, which is a smaller pool. So that's obviously an older building, so it may need continuing cost upgrades, much like the Seashell Arena. Just keep that in mind as part of our asset management concerns, not only here, but throughout the region. There was also an a food waste program that was introduced a little while ago, and we were talking about, much like our food waste program and our green lidded containers, and how that is rolling out and its success in Area A, which, by the way, is Pender Harbor. And there was a discussion of the junior team, which was in the newspaper, council may not know. We're trying to facilitate and expedite as quick as possible the junior team adding individual seats to the arena. Because if you have individual seats, you can obviously charge money for those individual seat uses during games. So it's part of the revenue stream, but part of the sensibility of providing a paid event there. And so hopefully that will happen over the summer. We'll see how it goes, because the shutdown for the installation of those seats, the shutdown's not very long, and they have to get those seats in there while the shutdown occurs, for council's knowledge, because the seating has changed at the Gibsons Arena. And I hope when the juniors come that we all go, by the way, when they're finally here in the fall. And there's a recreational fees increase report that came to us. And from what, just double checking, there will be some increases, I think, next year, and there may be some fee changes, but the full analysis of the rec facilities will come in the next, I think within the next few months. It might take a little longer. That's an important thing for council to, and I'll do my best to report back to council on the rec facility analysis that is coming at the regional district in the next little while. Councillor Toth may know more as to when it comes, because it's going to be a big report. So it's I think it's in a few months, but it might be longer away. And I'll do my best to report back to council and they'll provide that report to us. Those are, the 4 facilities are probably the largest government assets, other than probably water, on the Sunshine Coast right now. So the information reporting back to this council on their cost, their future costs, their predicted lifespan is all really important information. I mean, we just put a roof on the police building, police and courthouse, and we know what doing any work on older buildings and/or buildings that are newer but are coming up to a roof means. So I'll do my best to report back to council on the rec issue. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Any comments or about the SCRD stuff? I guess I wanted to flag, and Councillor Toth, you said there's a water supply update at next week's Committee of the Whole. Are there plans, have you heard, either of you, I guess, about doing more in terms of getting the message out of what are the backup plans? What are the contingencies? What's the status of the different applications? When is the SCRD going to put out something that doesn't involve people sitting through potentially partway through a cow to hear it?
No, that's a fair question. And I know it's something that the directors have been struggling with too, making sure that they've got enough information. As I spoke to at the last council meeting, there is a lot of stuff that goes on behind the scenes that unfortunately just isn't able to be shared with the public yet. Happy to take that away. Staff are well aware that they need more messaging on the waterfront. The planning and, backup plans, things like that. It's the same thing with planning for fire and earthquake and active shooter events, whatever. Every event is going to be unique, and it's going to depend on what happens for what the response is. I mean, the realistic fact is, there is no ability to publish documentation planning for every scenario. I mean, the dam at Chapman Lake could be struck by a meteor tomorrow. We can't plan for that. Knowing that we've got Church Road well online this year for its full capacity, 4.6 million liters per day, knowing that there is work that is being done on the EFN front, and the province is well aware of the urgency of it. we're not gonna see the situation that we saw in 2022. I would wager that we will not go to a state of local emergency unless we get a meteor strike. Like, the infrastructure has developed a lot more in the last 2 years. The coordination between governments is continuing. You know, in 2022, we didn't really have any ability to draw water from the town of Gibsons, which is something that we do have capacity for now. But I agree, messaging that out to the public is something that needs more work.
Add to that, Councillor Toth and myself are often providing information and or questions that we receive to the from the public and at this table to staff, and asking them to make sure that they provide information to the public, and then there's a reminder to do that. There was a number of questions that have come from a Sechelt citizen last week, and I made sure that the chair was
Right,
received.
but the question is, how are we gonna message this going forward?
Well, that's what I'm talking
Yeah.
about is, we're making sure that the communications department messages the information that they believe they're hearing needs answers. And the email that we received this week regarding more EFN questions from an individual that was here a couple of weeks ago, I've sent to the chair and asked him to reply to those 3 questions, and he has said that he will be, so we'll see what happens. Thanks.
Okay. I mean, I would like to see us, perhaps I'll be seeing the chair tomorrow, that we actually call for a evening meeting. That's another part of this, that getting the message out, it needs to be not just during a daytime board meeting. People need to have a chance to come and have their questions answered. Okay. I will leave it at that on that one. We'll go to councillor reports.
Thank you.
So we'll just go down down the row.
Perfect. I've been out of town for the last week in the traditional territory of the Sinaikista. So not a lot of meetings to report on. I did unfortunately miss the EMCR update yesterday, but I believe you attended it. So looking forward to hearing what Minister Ma had for an update this week to the elected. And that's my report.
Thank you. Councillor Shepherd. 22 April, I was at the East Porpoise Bay AGM with the mayor. Great presentation from TELUS on update on all of their projects in town. 23rd April, the RCMP had their first quarter update on statistics in the district and the region. 24th April, library board meeting. 25th April, SCAF had a great evening with MP Patrick Weiler. He answered a lot of questions about housing, water, and so forth. And then May 1st today, the Select Committee on Community Safety. I'm not a member of the committee, but I'm really enjoying taking part in listening to the updates. Some very creative people, and it's good to see things happening. And thank you to Lucy Clark for assembling all the statistics. It's in terms of coming up with material that we can present to the public. Thanks. Okay, thank you.
I attended the joint childcare meeting this week. And great news, West Sechelt is fully staffed and opening May 13th, the childcare center up there. And they've been able to fully staff it. I guess they've had some success with recruitment. They're, you know, it's not that they're necessarily offering bonuses or anything, but they've been able to use the YMCA for staff housing until summer camp season, which is coming fast. So they're working on plans for that. Committee is also working on a data dashboard so that the public can access sort of, you know, how many people are on the wait list, how many spots are available in each in each facility and how long the wait list is for that. So there's only certain staff that can look after infant toddler, for instance. So if they have a staff change, that could adjust, what sort of spaces they're able to add. And they're also looking to need to update the childcare report, because they were they're on the same timeline. The poverty reduction, housing needs, childcare were all sort of done at the same time. So they're looking at ways to make that happen. I don't think they need to do it's really updating numbers and facilities that are in there. I also attended the SCAF meeting with Patrick Weiler, and the SCAF members talked about their emergency preparedness information town hall day coming on May 11th, and it became clear in that meeting that they were spending some of their own hard-earned dollars and trying to find sponsorship and stuff to help fund that project. So I would like to make a motion that we authorize a budget of up to $400 to help cover their costs that they weren't able to get sponsored, so that it's not coming out of their pockets. And I think we have a bit of a budget for the safety committee, so I'm suggesting that's where it come from, because emergency preparedness should sit at that table, it's feeling like. So I throw that out there for your consideration. Thanks. Any comments, questions? Thumbs up from Councilor McLaughlin.
Okay, I'll call the question. All in favor?
Thank you. That's it for me.
Could have asked you to file a notice of motion on that. Okay, Councillor McLaughlin.
Yes, thank you to the chair. I was also at that SCAF meeting, and yeah, it was very interesting to hear the emergency preparedness planning. They're concerned. Wildfire, water, whatever. They just want to start getting organized. And I think we've actually located the local area plans that were in the previous OCP, and they're available to be built on and be perhaps reintroduced as a working document for emergency planning and community planning. Also, I guess there's going to be a meeting in terms of the community associations. We're calling for a meeting to describe the impacts of FAR or ratio discussions that we've had. And so that's important that we follow up with that. And also relating to the OCP, I don't think they're the same meetings. I think there are specific issues that need to be reviewed with the community associations. So I noticed that some of the councillors have come up with a Jeopardy planning exercise, which, yeah, Jeopardy is like a scary word in a way. And planning is a very serious undertaking at this point in BC's history. So I'm hoping it's not just, too much fun and games, but it's very serious change in planning, and it has to be taken with that in mind. And so I think the SCRD environmental, I don't know, video webinars or whatever are available online. So they're not too hard to access and to review. So I'm hoping to hook up with those. And yeah, I just got my house insurance, and I'm not really sure if we have water issues, like a crisis, if water issues would be covered, like a wildfire or anything else. So I think it's kind of a man-made thing where we are, it may be tested, that it may be covered if we have to evacuate for water purposes. But from what I see from my insurance, it's not covered at all. So it behooves us to manage our water very carefully, because we don't really, it's unknown territory, honestly. And something nobody wants, but is a very big concern with residents and the community associations. So that's the main thing, that I have to report on this week. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Inkster?
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, well, I'm gonna have to look at my insurance after that comment, because I know that we have good fire, and our rates are decent here, because we have a really good fire department. So it's something we need to consider. Yeah, in terms of council reports, it's been busy with other things, including the SCRD the last little while. So I just have a couple of questions, of the other reports, if I may. By the way, I wish Councillor Shepherd was a little busier. I always, push for that. Just through to Councillor Rowe, a number of years ago, we identified West Seashelt as 2000 actually, as a big growth family area. And so it's good to hear the childcare spaces. I just didn't hear a number because it's just cool because kids can, mums can walk and bike their kids to that because of the flat up there. It's just a really good situation. So do you have a number?
No.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And again, it would depend on the staff they have, right? Because the ratios changed.
Yeah.
Depending.
Depending on the age of the
But
children,
I can
right?
find that out. And
Yeah, please do. It's just, Chair, it's just a really cool situation to put childcare and elementary school spaces in a very large growing family neighborhood. Thanks.
Great. Okay, thanks. First of all, lost a friend yesterday to the scourge of cancer, so I want to recognize and rest in peace, Gord. I sit on the Low Carbon Cities Canada Committee of the GMF, and just want to make sure everybody's aware, we are really focusing on scaling up local climate solutions for municipalities. And we got money, and we are in partnership with 7 of the largest cities in Canada, and we've started some strategic planning. I presented to the Vancouver Electric Vehicle Association last week on the Nordic EV Summit in Oslo. Last Thursday, you heard about SCAF, but before that, I went to the SAR fundraising event, then came to SCAF and concluded a long day chatting with our MP one-on-one. Last Friday, I was invited to a gathering in Pender Harbor where Ministers Murray Rankin and Nathan Cullen were there. Leonard Lee from the SCRD, Mayor White, and Haywoos Lenora and her council attended, as well as I believe it was 2 members of the Waterfront Protection Coalition. We toured the harbor, saw the docks and that are in place, and it is such a spectacular area. If you haven't seen it from the water, it's pretty amazing. I also took the opportunity to impress on the ministers the importance of the province expediting the approvals that we need for our water supplies. Just before I went up to Pender Harbor, I also went to see a bit of the filming of Amazing Race, which we can now talk about. And unfortunately, Seashell didn't cooperate at Porpoise Bay, but near the government dock, red tide, rainy, and the exercise or the competition they had was two-person kayaks, and they had to roll them over. And then they came back out and were told to find out how to get to Gibson's Public Market. So, not sure we're allowed to tell people publicly. Anyways, it was quite a treat, and I extend thanks to our staff and the first responders that were apparently very eager to be there just in case they were needed. Yesterday, yes, there was a mayor's and chair's session with Honorable Bowen Ma, the Minister of Emergency Management and Climate Readiness. We had a good discussion. I did ask her in the public question period to expedite the provincial government's approval of all our short-term solutions, things like EFN, using reclaimed water and the siphons. And after the meeting, she and I chatted further. I have had the chance in the past, so we've become good acquaintances. I also asked for clarification, and this is pretty significant. I'm not sure how much the council is aware, but there are new rules on the emergency management that require the mayor or whoever is declaring a state of local emergency to consult. In this case, the obligation would be to consult with our Seashell neighbors before declaring a state of local emergency. And she understands the dilemma. And, you know, the problem of if we ought to make a declaration now to save something and we have an obligation to consult, how does that work in practice? And they're working to identify ways to make that clearer. And then earlier today, of course, we had Chief Feschuk, but earlier today I had a meeting with a Shishel elder who called to meet. And I have 2 meetings later this week with some other elders. So working hard on that front. And that is my report. Anything else, council? Okay, nothing to release and,
Excuse me, sorry.
yes, please.
I was just wondering if we might be able to post somewhere a list of some of the council meetings that we're going to and their locations, because it seems like there's some overlap and such, but it would just help ease administrative burden if we could know when and where meetings are being held instead of finding out after the fact here, which, you know, sort of did.
When and where meeting.
Yeah,
said
like
council
meetings of
meeting.
counselors and maybe the mayor, just so we know what's going on where. Thank you.
Sure. I mean, if it's open to council, then yes, I quite agree. Some of them, for example, the meeting that in Pender Harbor, I was invited specifically. But certainly I keep council, or yeah, if it's an open invitation, everybody gets it. Please, Councillor Todd.
Thank you. And I know that the other one that would probably be of benefit to more of council would have been the EMCR updates. But those ones are mayors, chairs, chiefs, and electoral area directors. So Councillor Inkster and I actually received invitations as the electoral area directors for Seashelt. Yeah, I know. But it's not an invitation that comes to us through the seashelt.ca email.
Yeah, we actually, Minister and I talked about the format of that, so we'll see. It's pretty restrictive, and yes.
Yeah, I'd love to see, we just have so much electronic capabilities now. I'd love to see a calendar of, you know, where we are or what meetings that we have each day. And I know, you would probably go on there with, I know that the chair told me last week that you were going to Pender Harbor, just as to let me know, but we all know, you know, that that's the mayor and chair, and then of course the council, but it'd be good. So you would probably be on there because it was, it just happened, but that's good information. But, you know, the meetings that we all go to, it would be good. And I think many of them were welcome to. I think that, Councillor Rowe's Safety Committee has a number of designates, but generally we're welcome. As an example, it's a really important issue. And of course, council, you know, everyone knows that the agenda, regional district agendas are public, and to the 2 alternates, if they're not getting information, once again, let us know. We'll try to make sure you have what you need, but those are always public meetings. And if you show up for those, the mayor sometimes comes if the 2 others can come for some important meetings. Water updates good if you have time. And sometimes you might end up in our chair because of whatever can happen. So that has happened. So anyway, I'd love to see it on the information on calendars about our calendar that we have on our electronic piece on our agendas about what people are doing. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, there's nothing else. I will seek a motion to adjourn, and seconded. All in favor? We are adjourned.